Hello there, and welcome to the Star Wars Survival Guide. I'm Indiana Jim. I make videos about Star Wars video games, and the last time I was with you, I had just passed 545 subscribers, and now we're over 600. Thank you so much to everybody for subscribing. You continue to honor me, and I don't deserve it, but I do hope to earn it. I'm going to cover new Star Wars gaming news as it comes, but I'm also going to expand into some essay content on the films and TV shows as well. The discourse in the Star Wars community is in a pretty toxic place right now, but personally, I think it can be a place where reasonable minds can differ. I plan on bringing some analysis that you likely aren't hearing anywhere else, and I hope you appreciate it and that you continue to watch. Now, I promised that I would bring you a video about LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, and I have been racking my brain trying to think of exactly what I want to say. I was as addicted to LEGO Star Wars as anyone who played it. I spent hours upon hours upon hours playing those games, especially the complete saga, completing True Jedi on every level, finding every mini kit, collecting every red brick and gold brick. I was pretty excited about 2012's LEGO The Lord of the Rings, but ultimately wasn't taken in by it. The world map was difficult to navigate, the levels were entirely too open and thus lacked structure. The game attempted to tell the story with dialogue lifted from the movies. I got what they were trying to do. Let the dialogue convey the drama, to loosely follow the story, but let the sight gags express the humor. It just didn't work. The two things did not and should not go together. It's like dubbing All About the Benjamins over Weird Al's video version of All About the Pentiums.
What you wanna do? Wanna be hackers, cold callers, brawlers, who be dipping in the bins with the spoilers.
When I first started hearing that they were developing LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, I was pretty excited. I loved the fact that they weren't going to simply reiterate the earlier installments with just a few updates. I was anticipating this game about as much as we would all anticipate a Battlefront 3 at this point. So with a new LEGO Star Wars on the horizon, I imagined I would actually be able to make new guide videos for a new game and continue the momentum I generated. But I can't make content for a game I don't enjoy. And it was rather depressing to find out that I was profoundly disappointed in this game. Don't get me wrong, there are some really great aspects, and I know there are certain things that appeal to the tastes of others that may not appeal to me. There are definite pros and cons, so bear with me because I want to give you my first impressions as I came to them, and then I have three things that I find positive about the game.
The ambassadors for the Supreme Chancellor request permission to board.
Am I still in shot? Hade befunnit off. Yes, of course. As you know, our blockade is perfectly legal.
The first thing that jumps out at me is, why are we paying voice actors to voice original lines from the films when you can just pull them from the films? This isn't just repeating the mistake of LEGO Lord of the Rings, it's doubling down on making it worse. This isn't a video game adaptation of a film based on an early screenplay that hasn't been finalized. Do we really need LEGO games to tell the story of movies that are readily available to go watch? It's not only pointless, it doesn't match the lines we all hear in our heads from watching the films. The lines just sound awkward. Now, I understand it's for kids who may not have seen the movies, let alone memorize them like we have, but in that case, again, why spend the money on the actors? Just pull the lines over. But Jim, you say, you can just turn on mumble mode, so it's just like the original. Yes, you're right, I can. In fact, it's one of the first things I did, but the charm of the mumbles in the original game was that a character would just make one grunt or one gesture to convey the emotion, and we were moving on. The point was comedy through and through. Here, the characters simply mumble as long as it takes to say all of the lines. It absolutely defeats the purpose of even having mumbles to begin with, and is not anywhere close to feeling like the original game. And that brings me to the structure of the scenes in general. Scenes that barely take any time at all, like Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan landing on the Lucrehulk to entering the conference room, are nonsensically drawn out. The first thing we're given is a flight tutorial, distracting entirely from the beginning of the level. In the hangar, we have to talk to TC-14 before even going to the conference room, which includes a bunch of useless brick breaking before we even get there. Meanwhile, scenes that should take a little bit of time are absolutely blown through, such as in The Empire Strikes Back. The whole Bespin scene happens way too fast. Like, there's no creativity for this entire part. The designers apparently have no idea how to make levels out of the asteroid field or the flight to Bespin or the dinner scene with Vader. There could have been a whole dining room level there. Carbon freezing chamber could have used a pretty cool level, you know. But no, we skip all that just so we can get to a quick chase scene in the hallways with zero puzzles to solve, just more pointless blasting because, hey, we have to match the movie. Now, at this point, you've probably decided whether or not you like what I have to say. If you like it, drop a like. If you don't, drop a dislike. Let me know your feelings on the game. Now, let's talk about the mechanics. The mechanics of moving things with the Force is astoundingly awful, using double analog sticks to put things exactly where you want it. Now, I understand the idea of being able to move it exactly where you want to move it, but is it better than the original game where it simply moved where it was supposed to go? If I thought this game had anything close to an intuitive design, I'd say no. The necessity of flexibility is directly contingent on the fact that the level design is bad. What about having these aim and shoot mechanics rather than auto aim? In the originals, your blaster bolts just went toward the nearest enemy. Here you have some clunky aim and shoot mechanic which, depending on your aim assist settings, requires a certain level of skill to use. Again, is this game for kids or isn't it? Just like moving things with the Force, you have flexibility to shoot at particular things. Often, a level will have different options for what you might want to shoot at with different types of characters, but this goes to bad design fundamentals. Combat is not supposed to be a major focal point for a LEGO game. It's supposed to be about using LEGOs to solve puzzles. It's not a third-person shooter, yet that seems to be a big focus for this title. Now, Otoh Gunga is really where I feel like the bad level design really shows through. It's this big, gigantic circle area. It's easy to kind of lose your sense of direction. And sure, you have these prompts and you can go to the map and you can set your destinations. But, you know, if you're trying to get around to find all the collectibles, if you have to go to the map to select your destination every single time so that it can help guide you to finding the collectibles, that's really bad. Now let's talk about the Theed Palace level design. If you want to talk about a game made for kids, then the level designers entirely forgot their market. And in fact, at this point, I really don't think they were thinking of kids. I think they were thinking of all of us who grew up playing. Well, I didn't grow up. I was an adult already. But all of us who played the original LEGO Star Wars 15, 16 years ago or whatever. You know, the third-person camera angles are awful. It takes way too long to put the pillars in just the right location so that you can try to get all of the buttons pressed before the timer runs out. Then, on the statue puzzle outside the palace, it took forever to figure out how to get the last statue to turn. Maybe it was bugged and the resources didn't present themselves correctly at first, but it was ridiculous. The Dagobah level, absolute pointless waste of time and resources. The only thing you really have to do in here is an obstacle course as an excuse for Yoda to say his lines from the movie, and then the cave scene with a lightsaber fight that doesn't even matter. This is just a vision that Luke has. It's not really even a fight, for real. And there's no puzzle. It's just movement and combat, something that we already understand at this point. And after the truncated Bespin scenes that I already talked about, we return to Dagobah, where, what do? You try to pull the X-Wing out as Luke, Yoda lifts it out for you, and it's time to go to the next level. Like, why is this even in the game if all it is just to kind of show that a scene happened in the movie? You know, I think all of this points to just an inconsistency in development. You can tell that certain worlds and levels were designed by different people, and there doesn't appear to be a consistent approach. Some levels are really short and entirely pointless, like Yoda's obstacle course, while others are hopelessly long and drawn out, like the level where you just have to get the Falcon to take off from Mos Eisley. This long, drawn-out, multiple puzzle kind of thing. Or the stupid pillar level on Naboo. Some of the open world portions are exhausting to play through, like Odo Gunga or Episode 3 Coruscant, while others, such as Episode 1 Tatooine and Episode 2 Coruscant lower levels, were more interesting and engaging. This feels like a game that wasn't properly play tested. Yes, they had delays, which I thought were appropriate to make sure they got things right from a technical standpoint, but from a design standpoint, it feels like they tried to do too much. There doesn't seem to have been a producer willing to say when things weren't working, such as the completely non-intuitive, super cluttered, complicated menu UI. When it all comes down to it, it's been 4 months and I'm only 21% complete because either I'm not invested in the game because the levels don't seem to be worth anything, or I've grinded for an hour on one level and I'm bored to tears. This has not been a game that I have wanted to spend time on, and that really disappoints me compared to the level of anticipation that I had going into it. So, what does LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga do right? First, visually, it's absolutely stunning. I don't have a high-end gaming rig, but I am playing on 1080p at 144 frames per second, and I'm consistently amazed by how it looks. Second, if you like games that are full of content with all kinds of challenges and the collectibles to check off, I mean, this game absolutely has it in spades. If you like having a deep dive game with repeat playability, then you not only have the story levels, but plenty of collectibles and puzzles that require a large variety of characters to complete in the free play. Third, there are levels in which I found myself immersed and I really enjoyed, like Mos Espa, Feed City. If not the palace, the city was at least enjoyable. The lower levels of Coruscant, Geonosis, Kashyyyk, and Hoth were all great, I thought. Eventually, I'm going to get through the story levels and then see what free play has to offer. It's entirely possible I may change my mind about how I feel by then, and I'll be back to update my thoughts on the game. In the meantime, stay tuned, and here's hoping we have new Star Wars gaming news to talk about soon. As always, I'm sorry I couldn't do better, but I've got my own problems.